Good morning, everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting. Today, I'm very pleased to be signing Senate Bill 9 into law, the first of the 3 ethics bills I sponsored after taking office. This legislation directs the State Auditor in the Secretary of State's office to conduct a performance audit of state agency practices in disclosing and retaining public records. And I have recently learned that the audit is actually underway, so I'm very pleased to see the Secretary of State moving very quickly on this project. Over the years, various aspects of Oregon's public records law have been modified in isolation, like a Victorian house that has been remodeled one room at a time by multiple owners over the course of several decades. The 400+ exemptions spread throughout our 838 chapters of the Oregon Revised Statutes have contributed to a system that can mystify and stymie members of the public seeking to access information intended to be accessible to them. Additionally, this myriad of exemptions often requires review by the agency's legal counsel prior to release to ensure records are being disclosed or withheld appropriately. The review takes time, expertise, and resources. We hear anecdotally that agency responses to public records requests vary greatly. The audit will help provide empirical answers to questions like, what training do agency staff receive about managing public records? Do they have retention schedules? Do they respond in a timely fashion? How are costs or charges determined? This audit is not a hunt for bad actors. Instead, it will provide information for a system-wide solution. Significantly, the auditors are tasked with the responsibility of identifying best practices in 2 main areas. Best practices for complying with public records laws in a timely and efficient manner, and secondly, best practices for using technology to retain and manage public records. Oregon's government belongs to its people. In the aftermath of a major scandal that undermined the public's trust in the state's highest office, it's my job that we move forward with integrity and transparency. The ethics package that I have, House Bill 2019, House Bills 2020, and Senate Bill 9, are important steps in restoring public trust in state government. The audit required by Senate Bill 9 will provide fact-based solutions and best practices to policymakers so that we can improve information access and transparency. I just want to say thank you to the legislature for this incredibly important work. Thank you to Gina Zedlick, who from my office took the lead on this, and to say thank you for the Attorney General for your assistance, particularly as we move forward in tackling these issues. So thank you all very much, and I'm going to go ahead and sign the legislation. There you go. Yay, Team Brown. Great.
Who gets the pen?
I think Gina Zedlick gets the pen, so, but I might take one.
You're going to give it to Governor Kitzhaber?
No, I'm not going to give it to Governor Kitzhaber.
The other 2 bills that you mentioned, what's the status of those? Just remind us.
House Bill 2020, I think, came out of Senate rules last week and coming to the floor. It'll be on the floor today.
No, it's on the floor yet, but it came out of the committee on Friday.
So it'll be here shortly, assuming it passes the Senate. In 2019, I've lost where it is, but I think it's through.
It's currently in Ways and Means, but has been passed out of Ways and Means. It's still sitting there.
During your State of the State address, you said very strongly that the legislature must act on these. I mean, how satisfied with you are you with the legislature's actions on these bills?
I'm very pleased. I feel very confident that all of these bills will move to my desk They've had broad bipartisan support, and I'm just pleased to see the legislature take action so quickly. As you know, the Ways and Means process, the wheels of justice tend to move more slowly, but I'm very confident that that legislation is going to move forward as well.
You mentioned all the 400 exemptions that require lawyers to look at them. Do you envision ultimately having legislation that significantly pares those down to something that's a lot more manageable and that wouldn't need a lawyer to look at every records request?
Well, I'm hoping that we can work very closely with the Attorney General, who's here and might be willing to also respond to your questions. But post-session, I anticipate you will see movement forward on a task force specifically designed to take a look at those 400 exemptions. I don't remember if you were in the building at the time, but certainly folks have tackled this issue in prior legislative sessions. Senate Bill 41, prior Attorney General. That legislation did not move forward. I'm hoping that we can come up with a collaborative approach, common sense approach that will simplify and streamline our public records exemptions. It will take some time. That is not, as you can imagine, an easy couple of week solution. It will take some time to do that.
Does, is that the John Kroger Bill 41? Obviously,
Did I get the bill number right? I think I did. Yes, okay.
ran into a lot of trouble in the legislature. Do you think realistically it can get through in a short session next year, or would this be a long session thing?
I think that's actually a great question. I think the challenge is bringing parties, local governments together along with, shall we say, the communications folks in a way that comes up with some compromises and solutions that are workable for everyone. So I think the key is transparency and access. I think for a lot of smaller jurisdictions, that can be a challenge. But I think that is the challenge that the Attorney General and her team are very capable of undertaking. But I don't think it could be done in a few months. I think this is a several-month project.
Have you looked at, or I mean, do you have a good understanding of why that other bill failed and how you might solve that problem?
Senate Bill 41. I think it's fair to say that there wasn't a lot of collaboration at the outset in terms of that legislation, and conversations with all of the organizations involved.
We're going to have to wrap it up here, so
Okay.
maybe last question.
How satisfied are you with your own office's handling of public records requests since you took office?
Well, I think we've done a really fine job working as quickly as we can. As you well know, we had on loan from the Attorney General's office 4 attorneys, sometimes 5, in order to respond to requests. So we worked very hard to respond very quickly to these public records requests. I think that sort of begs the question about, or basically answers the question about why this legislation, Senate Bill 9, is so important. And I think the goal is to get to a level of consistency and practices amongst state agencies, using technology in a way that will streamline and simplify these public records requests. So I'm hoping that the audit comes back with really specific recommendations that can be implemented either statutorily or via executive order that will help us streamline and respond to public records requests. Thank you. Thanks, guys.